submit the game, cool. I'm on my staycation, everything's awesome. And then it's like a Monday, the game's coming out Wednesday, June 22nd, 2011. Very excited. And then I can't remember who called me, but they were like, hey, we have this conference call with Microsoft. We just want you to jump in on it. Sure. Jump in on it. I'm in my pajamas. And they're like, hey, so, name Trenched. And I'm like, yeah, I love that name. They're like, yeah, we can't use it in Europe. I'm like, what do you mean we can't use it in Europe? Like, are you, what? Not a lawyer. Not a lawyer. So I'm like, okay, so what is happening now? And they're like, well, we have to rename the game in Europe. And I'm like, you can't just rename the game in Europe. And they're like, well, it happens sometimes. And there are examples of like products that have, like Biohazard, right? It's like Resident Evil is actually called Biohazard in Japan. I don't know why. I don't actually know why that one. Maybe the band registered for something in the States. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, there are lots of examples of it. But I'm just like, but it's weird because it splits your market. You know, like people get confused when you talk about the game if it doesn't have a singular name. It's like, okay, so we're doing, you know, so that's when we started sort of like our grassroots marketing where we're trying to do more Twitter, more on our own webpage, more on Facebook, more on whatever, just trying to do it ourselves. And we were really not used to that. Like, we're used to the publishers really taking care of the marketing and stuff for the title. Yeah, these guys are just parking their giant truck. You got it? Yeah, so that was kind of crappy. But our US launch was really awesome. Like, a bunch of players got behind it right away. People were playing the game. It was really cool interacting with people. Our reviews were really good. You know, like mid-80s Metacritic average, like lots of 9s and stuff were coming out. It was great. Like, I was so excited. Especially we found out kind of early that our first one was going to be a 9. And I was like, oh my God, we did it. I was so excited. But then, yeah, like that was going great and the reception was great and all these things. Like, it was fun. And then we got to start on the DLC almost right away. And we also had to work out the whole name change thing. And that was, I had lobbied for, Iron Brigade was not my personal first choice. But at this point, Microsoft owned the IP, so they had to approve whatever we did. So there was a collaboration on renaming the game. I wanted, my first choice was World War Tube, because it's a pun. And I thought that would be really hilarious and awesome. My second favorite, maybe my favorite in retrospect, was Wrenched. Because you just, yeah, it's called Wrench now. Like, there's wrenches in the game, I guess. And then it would just be a joke, you know. To the people that knew about it, it would be a joke. And to the other people, it would be like, yeah, I guess they put the mechs together with wrenches, like, whatever. But then Iron Brigade was farther down the list. And that was more the, like, I mean, one thing that's good about it is that it describes the game. Like you read Iron Brigade, you see a giant mech that's maybe made out of iron, whatever, and you're like, oh, you see 2 or 3 of them together, or 4 of them together. Yeah, maybe you see 3 of them together, and you're like, oh, Iron Brigade, it makes sense, cool, awesome. So like, it's not a bad name. It's not a bad name. I think we missed the opportunity to call it Wrenched and have it just be like funny and be a joke. We had to do some like really weird tech backflips. Chris Journey, the lead programmer of the project, he had to do some insane stuff that had never been done on Xbox Live before. About like, it was actually a title update that would replace the whole executable with a Flash version with just a little Flash asset that would pop up and say, hey, we're upgrading the game to Iron Brigade, like, and then you would hit a button and it would bring up the re-download thing, and then, you know, in the dashboard, and you would have to hit download again, and then download 1.5 gigs again, and then you could play the game as Iron Brigade. There were a couple of delays there. There was one trench that we missed, like in the upsell of the demo, there was a pop-up thing that said you would have, you know, you would have earned this, you know, achievement, but you didn't because it's the demo, and it had a trenched border around it. It was built into the art, so it wasn't searchable in text. So we missed that one. That bounced us out of cert. I don't know. It was, the whole thing was just crazy. And we also were, one thing that was cool about it is that we were able to get a lot of the content for the expansion was done at that point. So we were able to sort of like sneak that into the initial Iron Brigade, even though it wasn't accessible. So that way people who had the DLC could play with people who didn't have the DLC. They can join and play together. And that's very cool and very difficult to do on a console like the Xbox, where, you know, the title updates are supposed to be like 4 megs. Like, you can't really do anything in 4 megs. So yeah, that was nice that we had a solution for those people that, you know, weren't going to buy the DLC, but they were going to play with somebody who had gear from the DLC and go play old levels or whatever. We also added the survival mode, which was really cool. Like, just like kind of an endless. It's actually not endless. It actually goes to only goes to 100. We were only able to get up to like 85 in our best run, so we were like, nobody will get to 100. And also the performance is really bad. If you get up there, there's so many turrets and so many things happening in the game that your frame rate will just dip. And it's like, man, there's just so much stuff. Like, we can only optimize it so much. So we were like, we'll just leave it at 100. And then it was really cool watching people discuss strategies to try to get to 100. And people totally did it. And then people figured out like sort of what the most overpowered strategies were. Then they would try to do it without using those strategies. Then they would try to do it by themselves. Then they would, and they did all these things. Like, there's, and then they tried to get 100%, where your base doesn't take a hit, a perfect run, all the way to 100, and they did that too. So like, I feel like all of the gameplay juice was like squeezed out of the Iron Brigade, just all of it, and that's really cool, seeing people care about your game so much that they like just want to just squeeze it and get it all out of there. That's really awesome. Also, the fact that it's co-op. I play a lot of games with my younger brother. I really like that's kind of our primary way of like keeping in touch. It's just like playing co-op stuff. Like, we're playing Dota right now, and that's fun because he yells at me because I'm terrible at Dota. Yeah, I really like that power of games, that people can actually like socialize through them. You know, like, that's really awesome. And some of my favorite things, once we threw Trenched Iron Brigade out into the world, were just the stories that people would post. It was mostly on Facebook, which was interesting. Less through email or, I mean, at Twitter, I guess it's hard to share a story, but our Facebook page, there were a lot of like really awesome stories of like, there was this guy that posted about how he and his girlfriend have like kind of like a long distance thing every summer, and they played Trenched all summer. That was like how they kept in touch before they like came back together, you know? I'm like, that's amazing. There was another one where a guy and his 3 brothers, they live in Seattle, San Diego, Florida, and New England. And he was like, we all bought your game and we all played through the whole campaign together, and it's awesome. And I was just like, it's like really, I get kind of emotional when I think about that. I really do. Like, it just makes me, it makes me think about how, like, I often wrestle with the fact that we're not like saving lives, you know? It's like, we're not really like, you know, it's like, it's really hard to make video games. Like, it takes a lot of like blood, sweat, tears, intelligence, some goofiness, but like it's like really hard work, like, to do it. And all of that work is not really being put towards like, you know, making humanity better kind of stuff. And yeah, that's like, I kind of wrestle with that sometimes. But when I read those stories about people like, just like, I don't know, just like coming together through the games, it just makes me feel really good about what we do. The fact that like people can, yeah, they can share experiences together. They can be closer because of this game that we made, because of this experience that we made that they can share. That's awesome. And it doesn't have to be multiplayer games. Like single player games can do it too, I think. Like, where, you know, people experience similar things, or they experience different things within the same system, and they want to discuss the differences, and that's like really like a fun social kind of thing. Yeah, I love that part of it. I think that was the most rewarding part of the whole thing. There's also that, like, you know, talking about being depressed and then like kind of coming out of it really made me value like positivity, I think, as a thing. Like, and it came time for us to do more of the like grassrootsy kind of, you know, try to promote the game. And I was really sick of like all the internet snarky bullshit that was happening, because like I was new to Twitter. I think I signed up for my Twitter account just for that, you know, just so I could be like, hey, I'm Brad Muir, I work at Double Fine, I'm making this game, like help me, you know, kind of thing. And I didn't know what I was doing, but reading Twitter, it's like, oh my God, like people are so mean. People are so mean, and they're often mean to each other, to things, but also to each other. And it's like, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. I just don't think that people are thinking when they're tweeting a lot of the times, and it bums me out. So I was like, no, it's like, I'm gonna be super positive. Like I'm gonna, you know, really try to focus on like being positive, like not bashing things and stuff, and you know, just really focusing on like trying to just get the message out as positive as possible. Haters gonna hate style, just, you know, just go for it and just put it out there. And that's like, that's where like the :D came from, like and I mean, it's almost become a parody of itself at this point, but, which is fun. It's fun, it's super fun. I love putting it on all my tweets, and like, it's just kind of like a thing now. But there's like, yeah, it was really important to me, I think, at the time to sort of like just try to be like a positive force on the internet. You know, there's so many negative forces on the internet, to just try to be this like, no, like I'm gonna just be like super happy. I'm just gonna be this positive force that you know can promote this thing and be this person, and that's and actually it was actually really helpful for my depression. Because I think there was still some of it like lingering because of the like reflective nature of it. And I've probably talked about this a lot. Like this is one of the things I love about game development and working on a team and stuff, and working with the community and like just being exposed to the community and stuff, is that when you get excited and you put something positive out in the world, it's like some people are gonna bash it, some people are gonna hate it. But if you can ignore that part of it, you're gonna get other people that are they're just excited that somebody's excited. I mean, they like the idea too, but they're also responding to the positivity and the excitement and the enthusiasm, and then they will throw it back at you. And then you can just try to focus on that part of it, and then it makes you want to be more positive, and it just creates this loop between you and the community that you're like interacting with, and it's awesome. I mean, whether it's like people on the team internally, and we're just like trying to make the game better, or it's like people in the community and we're just talking about stuff or whatever, just focusing on the positive aspects of it, it just seems like it just comes back to you. And the Massive Chalice thing has been like that, I think, where it's like a lot of people, I've just seen a lot of comments from people that are like, back the most affable man in game development, Brad Muir. And I'm like, that's really flattering that like, I've seen that quite a few times now. And it's like, it makes me feel really good. It's like, and I mean, people that work with me and people that know me and stuff, like I'm not the most positive person. You know, it's like I feel like in my work too, I really focus on trying to find the parts that are bad and like get rid of them, you know, because if you can cut that out, the positive things will just seem so much better. So I think that like work is maybe a little bit different, where you sort of have to maybe focus on the things that are not really working, you know, in order to make the game really good. But yeah, it's like it made me really happy that just being this positive thing and trying to, you know, and it was also a self-fulfilling prophecy. I guess that was the other thing, is that the more positive that I tried to be when putting it on the internet, I found the more positive I was just in my life. Just like, you know, I was less snarky about stuff and people and things and whatever. And it was just like, it's been awesome. It's been awesome to just like not go down those paths. You know, it's like my mind doesn't even go there as often as it used to now. And that's like, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, like that whole, and it's funny because all of it sounds really cheesy, like power, positive thinking, and, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy, and like all that kind of, I don't know. It does sound kind of cheesy, but like it totally works. Like, it totally works. Just like, yeah, just positive outlook on stuff and just focusing on that is amazing. Man, I feel like I have just been talking my ass off. What time is it? 6:20.
Yeah. How are batteries? Oh, batteries are fine. Yeah.
How was this battery? Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add? I mean, we didn't even get to Massive Chalice.
No.
Holy shit. This is a two-part. This is a two-parter. The three-parter. Oh, man. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. I feel really vain right now. Just like, I'm just going to talk about my career. But it's like, it's weird. There's a lot of weird things that have happened. I don't know. It's cool to talk about it.
I guess you should talk about Massive Chalice.
Yeah. Fucking Massive Chalice. I've had the idea forever. I've had the idea for so long. Like, original XCOM is, and Final Fantasy Tactics both. Like, those two games, amazingly influential. Like, because they're both very, very mechanics-focused kind of games in my mind. And man, just the structure of XCOM, I feel like there aren't enough games that have that structure, where you've got really low-level tactics, where you're controlling these guys on this battlefield, very human scale. And then you take like the things that you earn in that tactical mode, feed into the strategic mode, and the strategic mode is like super high level. Like in XCOM, you're like, here's the whole globe, and you like build your base, and it's like, feels very high level. And then also that reactionary, I love the reactionary approach of like, you're defending the world, you just hit play, that run, you know, sun goes around the earth, days pass, and it has this great tension of just like, you're just like hoping that your research will finish before the aliens show up next, because that'll give you an edge, you know. And it has this great, like, you hit play, you hit fast forward, and you're just like, you know, do it. And that's great. And then it's like, oh no, they're attacking South America, and you're like, okay, I guess we got to take care of this. And then you're like back into the tactical mode, you know. And it has this great back and forth between the two things. I think it's unique to strategy games, that stuff, because and when we're looking at, you know, and then playing Final Fantasy Tactics, that game's amazing. The job system is so deep, like customizing your dudes and like having them, you know, be like, oh, I'm gonna have him train as you know, a black mage for a while, and then he'll be a knight, but he'll be able to use the black mage stuff, and then like maybe he can be a summoner for a while and learn how to teleport, and then okay, I'll switch him back to a knight. Now he's like a knight that can use black magic and he can teleport. And it's just amazing, like the level of customization while also keeping it pretty simple and learnable is amazing. Like that game's incredible. But so yeah, I had the idea that like, and I don't think it takes a genius to really come up with this idea, to be like, hey, like XCOM's got a really cool structure. Like, what if it was a fantasy game? Like, I mean, that's like, it sounds so stupid to say it out loud, but that's the like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that sounds great. But it was sort of like, nobody would want that now. You know, it's sort of like, now that I'm in the position where I could actually like make maybe like lead more games and make more games, like turn-based strategy, like nobody likes that anymore, you know? And again, this is thinking about pitching stuff to publishers, being in that publisher pitching mode. I wasn't even really thinking about it. But then like new XCOM came out last year, and I keep calling it new XCOM. I have to call it XCOM Enemy Unknown. That's like what it's actually called. But new XCOM came out, and amazing. Like that Jake Solomon dude, working at Firaxis forever, he's like Sid Meier's right-hand man. They give him the opportunity to like make XCOM, and he crushes it. It's streamlined, and some people might argue that a little bit of the complexity and depth is missing. But this game was funded by 2K, going to be console focused as well. I mean, that like just the fact that the hardcore PC guys are like, yeah, it lost a little bit of its strategy and depth. Oh my God, it could be so much worse. You know what I mean? Like, it could be so much worse. Like, and then people like me, like I actually really appreciate the fact that it's like slimmed down a little bit. It's, you know, that you don't have to worry about like ammo clips and, you know, individual grenades and consumable things like that. There's just a lot of like really smart streamlinings that he put in that game, that team put in that game. And and then I saw the reception. I mean, I loved it, but it's like, I love the original one. I thought he was very faithful, you know, stayed very faithful to the original game, and really like, like just crushed it. But that's me, and I love the old one. So then I was watching people's responses, and people ate that game up. They loved it, and I was just like, how is this happening? Like, and then that's sort of where I've been thinking about, like, you know, sometimes just good games can just find an audience. It doesn't matter, and also like the fact that like there are so many shooters and everything on the console. It's a new kind of game for a lot of people. Like, maybe they'll be into it. Maybe they'll give it a shot, you know? But the reception just seemed really positive. It was awesome. So that got me thinking about it again. And then I was just, you know, like, it doesn't take a genius to come up with fantasy XCOM. That's, you know, that's true. So I was looking for a twist. I was looking for something that we could really like change the whole formula and make, you know, kind of leave our mark on it. And I kept reading some threads from people talking about new XCOM, about how they liked the permadeath, but they couldn't live with it. Like, if it happened to them, they would just reload. You know, so maybe they didn't like the permadeath. Actually, now that I think about it, they actually hated it, just because they had trained this guy up the whole time, and then he died, and they're like, "Whoops, no way, not living without that guy. That guy's my best sniper. He's awesome." So it came from a lot of thinking about that. Like, is there a way that, because when I play it on Iron Man. You lose a guy, he's dead. Just like, that's it. Like, and actually, this is, okay, for the record, I did not play New XCOM on Iron Man mode. I simply chose not to reload the whole time, and I stayed true to that. Because there were a lot of bugs. I heard there were a lot of bugs in it, and you could actually end up with a dead-end kind of busted save if you played Iron Man, and that sounded not cool. So I think they've hashed that all out. I think it's fixed. But so I was playing self-imposed Iron Man mode. That's what I refer to it as. And I lost a lot of guys. I lost a lot of guys. And it sucks. But when I say it sucks, there's something... So I haven't thought about this enough. I probably shouldn't be talking about it on camera because it's all kind of like floating around in my brain. But there's something about the stress of having to deal with consequences in a game that people use terms like, "Oh, that's terrible," or "that sucks," or "this, oh man, it was so shitty when this happened." But like, they love the game. They're loving it. I love it when it happened. Like losing my best guy, you know, after training him up for 8 hours and he's got like 25, 30, 40, 50 kills or whatever, and he's just great. And then having one bad decision, like I grappled my sniper up onto this roof and it's like, oh, whoops, I thought I had sight up there, but there's 3 dudes up there. That guy's dead. You know, that guy's dead and it's my fault. That sucks. But trying to deal with it, because it changed the composition of my squad. And then I had to get a rookie sniper. And yeah, he can use the same weapons, but he's terrible. He's like a rookie. So trying to like work around the fact that my sniper was bad, trying to get him some XP and trying to, you know, deal without a sniper for a while, sort of, was really awesome and interesting. Like, it created lots of interesting scenarios where the guy that I had been really kind of like resting on, like really like this is the backbone of my army, my little squad of dudes, and now it's not there. Like, what does that mean? What is that? You know, it's like, how do I cope with this? It's awesome. It creates amazing gameplay. All these choices that you're making, it makes you think about the game differently. It makes you think about the game, approach it in different ways, try new strategies, see what works, like get out of your comfort zone. I think that's the thing, is that games become boring when you keep doing the same thing and it keeps working. I think that's when people kind of step away from them. They stop learning, they stop trying new stuff, and I think that's when they kind of like back away from it. But in losing a key member of your squad in XCOM actually causes you, it forces you to adapt and play the game differently. So I was like, how can we have permadeath enforced, but not like so brutally shitty for the people that don't like it? You know, can we sort of ease them into the concept of permadeath? And then I have no idea where it came from, but for some reason I was like, yeah, if the guys got older, you know, I was thinking about actually, okay, maybe I do now that I think about it. So the other thing I wanted is that fantasy games, a lot of their worlds, they're kind of unbelievable. They're not believable. They're like, there are things that seem weird that everyone just accepts. Kill the Giant, and the 2 examples that I use, Kill the Giant Spider, Cool. That was fun. Battling a giant spider. That was great. And then you loot its corpse, and you get a bag of gold, and you get a flaming sword. And you're just like, were these in his stomach? Like, what is happening? That's super weird. You know, like the whole like loot drops and stuff is just something that's very ingrained in fantasy games, and everyone accepts it. But it's, you know, it doesn't do a lot of favors for your like suspension of disbelief and you're like feeling immersed and all that stuff. And then the other one is like usually you're a character that's gonna try to save the world. You're like, cool, I'm the chosen one. I'm gonna save the world in this fantasy world. Walk into the blacksmith. You're like, I need a new sword. He's like, cool, 50 gold coins. And you're like, are you serious? Be like, dude, if I don't save the world, nobody else is, and you're gonna be out of business. You know, everyone's gonna be dead. You will be dead too. And it's like, 50 gold coins, take it or leave it. And you're just like, this is so awkward and weird. It really takes me out of the like fantasy. It takes me, you know, it makes it less realistic. So it was like looking for ways to also make a fantasy world more realistic. And I think that's how like the XCOM connection is sort of in there. Because in XCOM you have to like research the alien technology, manufacture it yourself before you can use it. It feels very satisfying. It feels very realistic that you're actually like kind of doing that. So like, could we bring some more of that simulation-y aspect into it? And it was like, hey, you know, if we're trying to simulate a fantasy world more, like what about the aging characters? You know, like what if you aged and then got too old and then died as a hero? That would force people to experience the permadeath in a way that is hopefully comfortable. If they die during combat, they can still reload. You know, you can never have to lose a guy in combat if you don't want to in Massive Chalice. We'll still allow people to play it on Iron Man that wanna just like really live with it. Or self-imposed Iron Man, you can totally go that road too. But like, yeah, I really wanna have that, have people experience it and experience that adapting. You know, that adaptation is the thing that makes it really cool, where like, so your warrior got, like your favorite guy got too old and then died. It's like now you have to live without him. Or as he's like kind of starting to trail off, you're like, okay, I think that he'll still be able to have some kids before he's totally gone, so I can like retire him and then he can have children and then his son can fight in the next generation. That's really awesome. Like I think that's a way of, but his son will be very young when he joins. So you're kind of like forced to constantly have like rookies and then aging guys, and then, you know, it'll be those dudes in the middle that really like, and when I say dudes, I mean male and female warriors. Like I really, really want to try to be inclusive with the game and make sure that like both the men and women are totally badass in the game. But yeah, make sure that those characters, those heroes that are right in this sort of like peak are the ones that are carrying you through these tactical missions. And then you'll see them get older as it goes. And I think that that's like a really great solution for trying to like, yeah, it's like sort of my first permadeath maybe for some people would be a great way of thinking about it. It's a good tagline for the game, my first permadeath. You know, just easing people into that thing and having them experience it in that way. So I feel like that's the real like design goal for the game, is that part. And then also the thematically, like I've never worked on a game, I've never led a game, because I've really only led Iron Brigade and Brazen, a little bit of Brazen. But with this one, I really like want the game to be about something, like the whole legacy concept. And the bloodlines, like I want players to really reflect on their own life, the fact that they're getting older all the time, the fact that their parents are getting older, grandparents, if they have children, like how are they training their children to be the heroes of the next generation? I think that's really cool. Like, and if you can see any parallels between your own life and the game, I think that's awesome. Just getting people to reflect on what's happening. And it's like, there won't be like a heavy-handed message with the game. That's the thing that I think is really awesome, is that it's, I'm hoping that it just has like kind of self-reflective, it's like a reflective quality to it. When you play it, it just makes you think about your life, makes you think about these things and consider them. And I guess it can sort of ask those questions of like, yeah, what are you leaving behind? What's your legacy as a person on the planet? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you gonna have children? Are you not gonna have children? Like, you know, these kinds of things. Yeah, I don't think it needs to have a real like heavy-handed message. It can but just through its mechanics, the game is about all of these things like mortality and perseverance and legacy and aging and all these things can come through just in things that just, I mean, it's gonna be a fun game. Like first and foremost, it's meant to just be like an awesome experience that will just be really fun. But it's cool to work on a game that has sort of this second layer, you know, this other thing that it's about that will hopefully come through. And I don't know if we'll be successful with it. Like, it's certainly the aim though, is that when people play it, I want them to sort of be thinking about deeper stuff while they play the game. And that's cool, because I think I've never really done that before, so it should be a nice challenge to kind of like have this extra theme. I wouldn't call it a message. It's a theme. It's what the game's about. It's also about chopping off demon heads, I think. That's what it's about. Yeah.